Start.
Cool. Kia ora, no mai haere mai, ko ri toku ingoa no tamaki makoto aho, ki te tamaki pātaka kōrero aho e mahi ana. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Cool. Hello and welcome to our workshop on understanding the 2020 general election. My name is Ree and I work at Auckland Libraries as a library assistant. I'm here with my coworker Maria. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Maria taku ingoa, no ruhi ahau, kei tamaki pātaka kōrero ahau e mahi ana. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Hi everyone, my name is Maria. I work in the communities team together with Ree in Auckland Central City Library.
Cool. So today we're going to start with a karakia. Do you mind sharing the...
Yep, I'll share the screen.
Cool, so I'll just read the first line and then we'll just alternate. So for this part, if everyone just stays muted except for me and Maria, and then we'll just do it together. Whakataka te hou ki te uru.
Whakataka te hou ki te tonga.
Kia mā kina kina ki uta.
Kia mā tara tara ki tai.
E hi ake ana te atakura.
He tio.
He huka.
He hauhu.
Tihei mauri ora. Cool. Thanks everyone.
Thank you everyone. And to start our presentation, we'd like to start with the question, why do we vote? It's a good question to think about and to warm up. So if you can please use chart and write some questions, some reasons that come to your mind. Obviously there are many reasons, universal and personal, so don't overthink it. It's just for a warm-up. And while you're doing it, I'll share with you some of the reasons that we put together. Elections have consequences. Yes, they do, and that's why it is important to vote. Not voting is giving up your choice. If you don't vote, someone else will vote for you, make decision for you, and you don't want to happen. It's your money, so as taxpayers, you pay taxes and you have a right to decide how your money is spent. Voting is an opportunity for a change. Yeah, this is a thing that we can actually do, just go and vote if we are not happy with something, let's say. And community depends on you. It's not just about you, it's about our kids, our elderly, about the future generation, those people who live with us. As some poet said, no man is an island. So we're doing it not just for ourselves. Yeah, and as librarians, our goal is to educate people by providing them with neutral and unbiased information, or giving access to people who live in Auckland for this information. Our goal for this workshop is to help you to understand how election works in New Zealand, how voting system works in New Zealand. We're not here to tell you who to vote for, but where to find information and explain how the voting process works. So during this workshop, we would like to please maintain neutral space and refrain from personal politics.
Yeah, who you vote for is your own personal choice. So we're just here to guide you about how to vote, and we're not here to tell you who to vote for. So today we're going to cover an overview of our system of government, as well as our country's voting system and what our votes contribute to. We'll show you the steps of how to enroll to vote, and you can do that at the library in person if you want to. And then finally, we'll go over what steps you'll be taking on election day and how to cast your vote. Cool. So the general election is when we'll choose who will represent us in Parliament for the next 3 years. And the people in Parliament make decisions on health, housing, employment, education, and all the things that matter in our communities. And everyone's vote is worth the same. So voting is the most important way to make sure your voice is heard on the issues that matter to you. In New Zealand, our general election will be held on Saturday, the 17th of October, and the last vote will be cast at 7 p.m. If you want to vote early, you can start doing that on Saturday, the 3rd of October, and you can enroll to vote all the way up until election day and even on election day. It's really easy to enroll to vote. Like I said, if you come into the library, we have paper forms for you to enroll, or you can enroll online at vote.nz. And you're eligible to vote if you're 18 years or older, if you're a New Zealand citizen or permanent resident and have lived in New Zealand for 1 year or more at some time in your life. Cool.
Yeah, so New Zealand New Zealand government is a type of representative democracy, or it's called indirect democracy. It means that as people, we vote for our representatives, those officials who would represent us in parliament and make decisions on laws and rules on society. This election is unique in a way because it will also have some elements of direct democracy. So we're also going to vote on 2 referendums, and we're going to talk about it in more details later. So we're going to vote on particular issues and rules that are important to us.
Yeah, so the system we use in New Zealand is called MMP, which stands for Mixed Member Proportional. Yeah, I found this a little confusing at first, so I had to refresh my memory. But so the New Zealand Parliament has 120 seats for its MPs, or members of parliament. And during an election, political parties try to win as many seats as they can. And how many seats each party gets is up to the voters in New Zealand. So we vote on who's going to represent us. So when it comes to voting, you get 2 types of vote, a party vote and an electorate vote. So the first one is the party vote, which is for the party that you want to represent you in parliament. So each party has different values, policies, approaches, and priorities. And the more votes a party gets during the general election, the larger percentage of seats they will hold in parliament. So you can see in the first picture on the left, the pie chart shows you the party that's represented by the white part of the pie chart has the most seats in parliament. And on the other chart on the right, you can see the makeup after the 2017 general election. So the most number of votes here are actually for the National Party, but because Labour had a coalition, which means they combined together with New Zealand First and the Green Party, that's why that made up, that's why we had Jacinda as our Prime Minister. She's part of the Labour Party. So that's just a bit about that diagram, because I know it can be a little confusing if you're not used to how the voting system works. So these are the 15, I think it's actually more than 15, major and minor parties in New Zealand that are campaigning this year. When it comes to choosing who to vote for, it's important to understand what each party's priorities are for the coming term. And it's also important to understand what your values are regarding policies and how they align with the party of your choice.
Yeah, and there are lots of information online, and also we can help you in the library. We have brochures where you can find information on different policies, candidates, parties. So today we just recommend you one of them, policy.nz, that was created by the Spin-off, and I found it very useful. You can click and read and get information about different candidates, but you can also compare their policies. For example, you will type immigration policy and then see what different parties say about immigration issues or ecology or transport. Yeah, so I found it interesting and useful. And the information here is updated currently, so it will be more just watch out this space. And again, it's just one example of where you can find information on different parties. We're not gonna talk about it during the workshop, but it's important to in order to make informed decision, it's important to have a look and, you know, have some read or ask, think about it.
Yeah, I saw that website for the first time recently and it was really useful. Some policies I hadn't even thought of were on there, so I'd recommend that one as well. Okay, the second type of vote you can cast is your electorate vote. So as you can see on the right, there's like the moving diagram, which this diagram is showing you how the electoral boundaries changed from 2014 until now. But basically all of Tāmaki Makaurau is divided into different sections, and each one is an electorate. So in a New Zealand Parliament, there's an MP representing every electorate in the country. And this is where your electorate votes come in. So you're going to be voting for the MP that you want to represent your electorate. This can be different from your party vote. So the MP that you vote for your electorate doesn't have to be in the same party that you voted for with your party vote. And the candidate with the most electorate votes will become your electorate MP and secure a seat in Parliament, even if their party does not win the election. Cool. So when I showed you the map of the electorates, there's also kind of another map which has the Māori electorates. So some of the electorate seats are Māori seats, and they're there because New Zealand was founded as a bicultural nation with Māori and the European settlers. So Māori seats are there to ensure that the Indigenous people of New Zealand are given a voice in the government. And there are currently 7 Māori electoral seats in total. So if you are of Māori descent, you can decide to vote on the Māori roll or the general roll when you first enroll to vote. And that'll influence the candidates that you vote for. So if you're on the Māori roll, you'll vote for a candidate standing in the Māori electorate. And if you're on the general roll, you'll vote for a candidate standing in the general electorate. And it's important to note that this PowerPoint was made with a Pākehā perspective. So we are talking about the Māori role here, but if you want to learn more about it, you can come and talk to one of our Māori specialist librarians at the library.
Mm-hmm. And just to add
yes,
what Rhys said, there are 71 electorates in New Zealand overall, and 7 of them are Maoris. So the remaining 64 are general. Right? And this is just to ensure that Maori people are represented in the government, which wasn't always the case.
Yeah, and it's also good to know the type of role you're on makes no difference to your party vote, so you still get to choose from the same list of political parties, no matter which role that you're on. Yeah, but it only affects your electorate vote. So now we can talk a bit about the referendums. So this election is a little bit different. So we get to vote on 2 referendums, which has never happened before in New Zealand. So like Maria was saying before, this is an example of direct democracy in terms of one of the referendums. So as we go through, I'll explain the different referendums and what they, a bit more about each one. But a referendum is basically a way for us to have a say on one specific issue. And you can choose to vote on both of them along with your party and electorate votes. So the first one this year is the cannabis legalization and control referendum. So we're going to vote on whether the recreational use of cannabis should become legal based on the proposed cannabis legalization and control bill. And it's a non-binding referendum. So that's what I meant before about one of them being direct democracy. So the cannabis one, it means the results of the vote are useful for the government to consider, but they don't have to pass any policies based on the referendum. They can just think about what the country has voted for. And the second referendum is the end of life choice referendum. So this one will ask us to vote on whether the End of Life Choice Act 2019 should come into force, which gives people with a terminal illness the option of requesting assisted dying. And this one is a binding referendum. So if more than 50% of the votes are yes, the act will come into force 12 months after the votes are counted. And it's binding, so it means the government has to enforce the policy based on how we vote. Yeah, so that's just a little bit about the 2 referendums, but you can find out more online. Yeah, that's just like a brief overview. Cool. So I mentioned earlier about how to enroll. So enrolling online is a really easy way. If you have access to the internet, it's just vote.nz/enroll. So you can do it through this website. So you'll either need to have photo ID or a RealMe account for this, or you can mail through a paper enrollment form. So we do have them at the library, and I think other community centres will have them. And our staff can help you fill the form out if you need that. So to enroll to vote, you have to provide your residential address. And if you currently aren't housed, you can use your last known address in New Zealand or the address of a friend or family member or an organisation like the City Mission. Cool. So when it's election day, this is just an example of what your ballot will look like when you go into the voting booth. So when you go in to vote, make sure you bring your Easy Vote card if you have one, or some photo ID. And you can also bring your own pen since we're in level 2.5 at the moment. So in every area in Auckland, there will be a place where you can cast your vote. If you're voting in a place that's not your electorate, you'll count as a special vote. So you can just tell them when you go in, they can direct you where to go for the special votes. You can find out where you can vote on the Vote NZ website, or you can ask one of us and we can have a look online for you. So when you go into the booth, you'll be given a ballot like this, and then you can select your votes. The staff at the voting poll will give you some instructions, but you can bring someone with you if you want them to help you or explain things to you. And because we're in COVID times, there'll be extra safety measures at the voting booths. So there'll be hand sanitizer, 2-meter social distancing, and voting will begin 2 days earlier to prevent crowds. Cool, so there's lots of things you can do if you want to find out more about which party and which MP to vote for. So if you have any issues with enrolling, you can book a librarian session with us to make sure you know how to enroll, either online or on paper. If you want to learn more about the history of democracy in New Zealand, you can head up to our research centre at Central Library. We will have displays up in our library about elections and voting as well. You can use our public computers if you want to do your own research. And we also have obviously books, magazines and databases on our library website, and physical copies of them as well. Cool, so we've learned quite a lot today. I'll just go over it a little bit. So we've looked at our MMP system and how our votes contribute towards it. We looked at the 2 types of vote that we have, the party vote and the electorate vote, and which type of role you want to be on. So if you're of Māori descent, you can choose to be on the Māori roll or the general roll. We learned what a referendum is, and the 2 issues we'll be looking at this year, the cannabis referendum and the end of life choice referendum. And we've gone over how to enroll to vote, as well as what it actually looks like to vote at the voting booth. Yeah, so if you do want a one-on-one session with us, you can contact us about a book a librarian session. But does anyone have any questions?
And we'll finish with karakia, closing karakia. As we did with opening karakia, we're gonna read it with line by line. Unuhia, unuhia.
Unuhia mai te uru tapunui.
Kia wate, kia mama.
Te ngākau, te tinana, te hinengaro.
I te ara takatu.
Koe ara e rongo.
E whakairia ai ki ki runga.
Kia tina, homie, huie, tai kie.
Kia ora everyone, and thank you.
Kia ora.